Hello, everybody, and welcome back to episode 4 of Our Life Beginnings and Always. We are moving on to the next step. We've lived out our whole childhood, so we gotta get going. We gotta keep moving. So let's get started. And then the summer ended. I clicked it. It said, yes, okay. Are we sure? We're sure. We've done everything we can do without paying money. Mommy, I'll never get tired of that view. You stood beside your moms, Lizzie and Cove, as the five of you watched the sun dip into the ocean somewhere far, far away. You liked to imagine it cooling off in the water, resting itself before getting ready to shine brightly again tomorrow. That was a fun day. I didn't know they had magicians on the shopping street now. Neither did I. Oh no, we are so dull. Let's get out more. He didn't do real magic, Mom. How do you figure that one out? 'Cause I know what real magic looks like. Oh, Lizzie dear, there's all kind of magic in the world. Lizzie gave Mommy a suspicious look, but didn't dispute the claim. You looked over at Cove, who hadn't said a word since you started home. He didn't look upset though, just content. You're aware he still hadn't quite warmed up to your parents. Well, we can't sit out here all night. Time to hurry home and get cooking. Who's helping with dinner? Lizzie immediately let out a groan. Mom, summer's almost over. The protest was obvious. You could practically see school on the horizon. You certainly didn't want to spend your last bits of freedom cooking dinner. You could do that any other day. We have to keep playing. This is so dramatic. We have to keep playing before it's too late. It is almost over. Please, can we play just a little longer? Mom looked down at you with a sigh, and you clasped your hands together to give your plea some extra appeal. We'll help with dinner tomorrow. You immediately nodded in agreement with the very clever offer, shifting closer to Lizzie since your parents can't possibly resist the power of two combined. Soon we'll have homework and reading to do. We can't do work now, too. Lizzie made her case and then stomped her foot into the ground. You mimicked her, feeling that would add something to the argument. Well... Oh, come on, Pam. I can help you with dinner. Mommy leaned in for a hug, and you knew that you were very close to victory. All right. But as soon as dinner's ready, you lot are coming inside, understood? Yes, Mom. Yes, Mom. Cove, dear, you're welcome to join us as well. You sent him a small smile, which he returned. Cove gave a non-committal shrug to your mommy, which you took as an agreement. So much to do, so little time. Maybe I could still get the seashell bracelet at Tines and Trinkets. Ooh, or maybe the playground? Or the fireflies would probably be coming out, right? We can't go too far. We'll object since we put in the effort too. Don't I get a say? Lizzie looked over at you, narrowing her eyes like she was very seriously contemplating the answer to that question. A strong gust of wind made you shiver. Lizzie huffed as she wrapped her arms around herself. Doesn't the wind know that summer's not over yet? That's all Lizzie said before abruptly turning on her heel and heading off in the direction of your mother's had gone. Where are you going? Going to my room. I have lots to plan if I want to make the most of tomorrow. You thought this over, looking off towards the water again. Lizzie didn't wait, and before long she was disappearing off down the road. Meanwhile, Cove was going in the opposite direction, heading for the beach. We're gonna follow Cove. We can sit in our room later. Cove gave you a smile that you couldn't help but return. Cool. Made a little gesture that you interpreted as, follow me, then started to head towards the waves. Cove knelt down, picking up something you quickly identified as a smooth rock. He reared his arm back, then tossed it out into the water. You're impressed. It was a good toss. We were impressed. What did I miss? Oh, we were impressed. Okay. I looked for my own rock. I also want to be impressive. Deciding to join Cove, you searched nearby for any rocks or shells that you could throw too. You found a shell that would suit your purposes, a smile growing as he tossed it as hard as he could. It landed with a wet-sounding thunk a few feet away and slipped down into the water. When you looked over at Cove, he didn't seem to notice that his throw had been more impressive. Cove was looking down at his cast, scratching idly at the pink surface, even though you were pretty sure he couldn't feel it. His brows were furrowed, and there was a frown on his face. It's not fair. I had to wear this cast for ages. I can't even swim. When do you get it off? Or how'd you get it? Which direction nosy do we want to be? I want to know how he got it. I was jet skiing. Cool. You immediately regretted saying that loudly, your face heating up, but it was too late to take it back now. Cove looked a little taken aback by your outburst, but after a second he gave a small nod. Then he continued to explain. I crashed. Not cool. I said, great, you were jet skiing? Gestured at his arm as if to say, and this was the result. It's hard to believe you're allowed to jet ski. Well, I'm not. Oh. Cove let off a huff, plopping down into the sand. Can't believe summer's almost over. You sat down next to him and nodded in agreement, regardless of the sudden change of topic. I don't want to go to school. I mean, I would. I don't want to go to a new school. I think it'll be the same school as you and Lizzie. My dad said something about that. Cool, you're gonna like it. Everyone's super nice. You'd only ever been to one school, but you were sure that his old school couldn't have been that much better. Then again, he did have to make new friends, meet new teachers. It could be kind of scary. Cove shook his head, then wrapped his good arm around his knees as he drew them to his chest. You heard sniffling sound, and when you took a good look at his face, you realized his eyes were wet. I want to go home. You never had to move before, but you thought you could understand. If you had to go to a new school all of a sudden, with all new people, you'd probably be dreading it too. Even though you sort of maybe understood, you still weren't sure how to help. Okay, I'll see. You just gonna abandon him? Okay, I'll see you later? Cove gave his head a small shake. No, I want to go back home. Right. Cove wanted to go back to his old home. The one that sat waiting someplace far from here. The one he would bring up whenever he felt this sad. It'd been a while since he had moved in, but he still didn't seem to feel any better about being here. He settled back down into the sand, trying to consider what to do. Should we be optimistic? I feel like that's just insensitive. We probably shouldn't say, this can be your home. Okay, I'm gonna save, because I'm nervous. Do you hate it here? Cove's brow furrowed even more. Then he shook his head. You felt a rush of relief fill you. You liked having Cove here. It would be sad if he'd been miserable the whole time. You're not gonna leave, right? You'll still be around? The question was a little surprising. Of course. Your parents would have mentioned if you were going to move or something, right? After a second, Cove gave a little nod. Once I get my cast off, we can go swimming. You were fine with him changing the subject again. Okay. You had to say swimming did sound fun, even if it was already getting chilly out. Cove smiled, then looked back to the waves. My dad keeps saying I'll get used to everything eventually, that I'd feel better then. It used to make me angry. I didn't want to get used to everything. You spared a glance over at Cove. He saw the anger had slipped off his face in favor of something almost puzzled. But maybe that would be okay after all, as long as I really do feel better. I can't see it. You could remember a long time ago, when you first started going to school, you had absolutely not been okay with this idea of being away from your parents for most of the day, to listen to strangers tell you what to do, and to sit with kids you'd never met before. Things changing is hard. I'll make sure you do. Cove laughed just a little, but you grinned, proud that you were able to drag one out of him when he was obviously feeling down. Even still, a second later, his eyes got a little misty once more. You got the feeling that they were different tears than the ones from before, though. I hope next summer I'll surf and go exploring, and everything will feel like it's supposed to again. You gave a little nod, resting your head on your own knees. The two of you sat quietly, just taking in the sounds of the waves. You hoped that Cove would be able to accept this place as his new home. You'd definitely try to help in what ways you could. There were so many wonderful things here Cove probably hadn't even seen yet. Lost in thought, you started a bit when you heard a faint, familiar sound. The sound of your mom shouting your name. You looked over your shoulder, realizing it was probably time for dinner. Time had gone by really fast. You stood and dusted the sand off yourself. My mom's calling. It's time for dinner. You should come. Cove looked up at you, expression screaming reluctance. Yet ultimately, okay. When you smiled, Cove returned with one of his own. Thanks. It was nice, where you were right then. But the two of you couldn't stay there in your own little world any longer, and you were being called forward. So both of you ran off towards your house, leaving the waves and the summer behind. In between. Okay. We can keep the split die here. But I feel like we should change hair bottom. We could have it choppy. Or maybe flowy. Was that wasn't what we had, was it? Maybe it was. Do we have these? No. When you want to be Hatsune Miku. These, I think, were the ones we had. Okay. We'll do the choppy one. Change page. Can't see the earrings anyway. Okay. Oh, we can be done. Done. We'll be relaxed at this point since we've gotten to know each other. Should we keep it at fond for right now? I think we have one more step to change it up to crush. Crush, crush, crush. I'm gonna leave it at fond. We'll save here. I'll leave it at fond. Because if I don't like where it's going, we'll change it. But for now, we'll leave it there. Okay, we can change it again at step 3. That's what I wanted to know. Yes. Oh, we're gonna leave it. We don't want to customize them at all. August ended, September began. It was time to go back to school. Lizzie groaned and complained the entire first week. She hated going to classes. Still, there were interesting things to do that couldn't be done anywhere else. You weren't sure how Cove felt about it. He was enrolled that year. That was like a sign Cove would be staying at Sunset Bird for a while. At school, he was alright, but kept his distance from the other kids. From what you saw, anyway. Whenever he could, Cove stuck to you like glue. He didn't even mind that much what you did to pass the time, as long as it was together. That year, the divorce of Cove's parents was finalized. You overheard your parents talking about it, saying Cove's dad got full custody. At first, you were worried that meant bad news. It had made Mr. Holden cry, apparently. Then you found out it meant that Cove would keep living with his dad. He would only stay with his mom a few weeks of the year. Cove cried too, for different reasons, you thought. It seemed like Cove and his dad might move again. Mr. Holden decided to stay after all. Mom asked him about it once. He had said he didn't want to uproot Cove's life a second time. Mr. Holden tried to get Cove to like Sunset Bird more. He kept encouraging his son to go out and see the place. Sometimes Mr. Holden volunteered you to spend time with Cove. He seemed very confident that it was an effective strategy. Cove never once talked to anyone about what had happened with his parents and withdrew whenever it was brought up. It was hard for him, yet nobody knew how to help. Eventually, Cove stopped crying on his own. You couldn't understand what changed. Still, you worried about him. You could tell he wasn't completely happy. Maybe one day he could say out loud what he felt inside. After that, it felt like things had gone back to normal. Except what was normal didn't stay the same. Years passed and suddenly you were in middle school. You weren't a kid anymore. You were 13 years old. Oh my god, 13 years old. You're basically an adult. That officially made you a teen, even if your sister didn't agree. The toys and crayons that used to litter every free space in your home had been packed away somewhere, replaced by new hobbies. There were other changes too. Cove's cast had gotten taken off. It was weird to see him without it initially. Underneath, the pink plaster ended up being a long, thin scar that snaked across his forearm. Cove's chest puffed out in pride when someone drew attention to it. I stole a jet ski, just kidding. He also went through a major growth spurt. He was the tallest student in his class for 2 years in a row. Cove will probably hold that spot again next time. In class, people knew him for more than just being tall. He also stood out because of how well he did in gym and other athletic situations. Over the years, he began opening up more too. You saw him talking amicably with other kids or neighbors from time to time. And the only kid that came to visit the neighborhood when you were little, Shiloh, well, he was gone. He and his mom moved back south because of her work, just 1 year after Cove came to Sunset Bird. It had been really upsetting when he left. Lizzie was inconsolable for weeks, but nobody talked about Shiloh anymore. It was a long time ago. You learned some heartbreaking things, became less sad the further away they were, even if it had never gotten any better. That was sad in its own way. Things at home were different too. You still lived in the same house and all that, but it wasn't how it was before. Ma dyed her hair purple, wanting something new, and liked it so much she kept dyeing it. You remember calling her mommy as a kid, but something like that seemed awkward nowadays. You were much too old for that word. Lizzie felt too mature for her nickname too. She insisted on everyone calling her Elizabeth, so you did. Your mom soon gave her permission to go places other than the playground and shopping street, which she took advantage of. You rarely saw her around the old neighborhood. In fact, she hardly spent time with you the way she did before. Elizabeth instead associated more with the girls from school who were her own age. Maybe the difference between 13 and 15 was greater than the difference between 8 and 10. You started befriending new people yourself, like Derek Suarez. He didn't live in the neighborhood or go to the same school. What happened was his and Cove's dad struck up a business partnership a few months ago. Since then, Derek would pop up in the area now and then. See, Mr. Suarez was happy to let Derek tag along to his work. Derek had the time for it. Without a doubt, everyone and everything around you had changed, in small and big ways. You had too. As time went by, though, it was easy to settle into this new normal. Before you knew it, school was over, and summer vacation had come again. It was your first day of summer vacation. The sun was hot as ever, but you were inside and away from its harsh rays. To be more specific, you were. That sounds delightful, sleeping in. It was hot, but you still had the blanket up over your head to block out the sun. You didn't want it intruding on your lazy morning. Unfortunately, you hadn't prepared for an intrusion. From beneath the blanket, you heard the door creak open. You're still sleeping? Wow, get up. Go away. We're gonna pretend to still be... It's the first day. You can't sleep in on the first day. Get out of here. You stayed wrapped up in your blankets, not moving an inch with your eyes closed peacefully. By the impatient tapping of her foot, you could tell she hadn't left. Come on, I know you heard me. Get up now. I will come over there. So much for a lazy morning. Mom told me to tell you that your friend's at the door. He brought some happy summer gift from Mr. Holden. Mom wants you to take it from him. Say thanks or whatever. So come down already. I'll be there when I'm there. Really? That's great. I'm coming. Elizabeth said nothing else and left, having done what she was instructed. You rolled out of bed, stretching your arms up high and yawning. Time to get ready. You sat yourself in front of the mirror in the far corner of your room. We're gonna be average. Cove was really tall. Derek was kind of short. You were pretty much the exact height of someone would expect for a 13-year-old. We're fine with it. It suited you well in your mind. Then you put the finishing touches on your outfit while ruminating on the situation. Careless as they had been, Elizabeth's word piqued your interest. You planned on going over to see what Cove was up to, so this worked in your favor. Your reflection grinned back at you. You were looking forward to seeing him. You left your room, taking an easy time down the stairs. Bro had to wait probably so long. And you're just casually walking down the stairs. Girl. You spotted Mom first, reclining on the couch. She held a magazine in her hands, which she was perusing through. Morning, Mom. She looked up at your greeting, a smile instantly appearing on her face.
Thanks.
Good morning, Mandy. Thank you for coming down. Ma's at the door with Cove. He can't stay over today, unfortunately. Why don't you go and thank him before he leaves? You nodded and made your way to the front of the house. Just as she said, Ma was there making conversation. She must have heard you because she looked over her shoulder. Look who finally made it. Morning, sleepyhead. Ma reached forward, and you knew she was about to pat you on the head. She was taller than average, so you were little in her eyes, despite being typical size for your own age. Yeah, that's fine. That type of small, affectionate exchange was nice. She placed the whole of her hand on top of your head for a second before lifting it back up. Ah, you're the last one down today, you know that? I was gonna stay in longer, so you're welcome. Yes, thank you for gracing us all with your presence this fine day. You're so welcome. It's a gift. With a small laugh, Ma stepped aside. Cove was just as you remembered. Exactly how you came to know him to be. He leaned uncomfortably to the side in your doorway as the longer strands of his hair idly drifted with the breeze. His features were pinched in embarrassment as he shifted from one foot to the other. He was holding what must be the much talked about gift. At first, you figured it must be a bouquet of flowers. Then you gave it a real look. No, instead it was carefully cut fruit. Bro gave me an edible arrangements for the summer gift. Beautiful. Made a lot of sense that it was actually from Cove's dad. You had to suppress a laugh at his showing. You couldn't imagine many folks buying that sort of thing for their own personal enjoyment. That kind of arrangement was built for the presentation, likely to impress whoever it was, but likely to impress whoever was inevitably going to receive it. It seemed no matter how long he lived here, Mr. Holden would keep going out of his way to be neighborly, and Cove could always be roped into participating. Cove smiled at the sight of you. The sting of this goofy errand he was clearly embarrassed to be on eased. Hey, Mandy. You smiled back. It was second nature to you. Cove has always been such a close friend, ever since the two of you were kids. Hey, it's nice to see you. Yeah, you too. Your grin widened even more. Every time he came, your mood was brightened. It was already shaping up to be another long summer with plenty of time for the two of you to have fun together. His awkwardness over the task started to creep back in, so Cove nudged the gift closer to you. He was ready to be relieved of it. With that, the gift was accepted. I hope you and your family like this. It's a pretty good gift. I think so anyway. He smiled earnestly. Listen, anytime someone would get those at work or whatever, is delightful. Dad spent a lot of time picking out the best size and design. There were so many options to choose from. Thank you. Could you tell your dad we loved the gift? Yeah. Mr. Holden's behavior really was different from any neighbor you've ever had, though after 5 years you were used to his antics, and you'd since made up your mind on what your opinion was. He was nice. That seems good. He was nice. You knew he wasn't completely perfect, but he always seemed to try so hard for the sake of others. Your thoughts were quickly interrupted by a shout. There you are. You shared a confused look with Cove. As one, both of you stepped through the open door onto the neighborhood street. Are we meeting Derek Suarez? I'm sorry. Didn't take long to locate the source of the noise. You spotted Derek. Just a few yards down the road, he ran up to you. We're happy. We're just happy. Derek was certainly a welcome guest in your neighborhood. It was a pleasant surprise whenever he showed up. After stopping a couple steps away, Derek hunched over to catch his breath. Then he looked up with a wide grin. Hey, guy and gal. Perfect. I was just at your house, Cove, but no one was there. Should have figured you'd be at Mandy's place. Do you ever spend time in your own home, or are you always just there? Derek laughed at his own joke. He either didn't notice that it embarrassed Cove, or the embarrassment was what he was actually laughing at. Derek turned to you. He was going to say more when his eyes widened and he gasped. What's that? You followed his gaze, unsure. Then you realized what he meant. You were still holding Mr. Holden's gift. This? It's kind of like a bouquet of flowers, but made out of fruit. Nice. Can I have some? Sure. Could you imagine? It's a gift from my family. I can't give it to you. Sure, we can share. Derek grew more excited by your words, bouncing on the balls of his feet. Awesome. Then he nodded his head, as if to clear it. Anyway, that's right. I came here because I need to say something big. He paused, possibly for effect. There's some other kid here in Sunset Bird. Cove was as surprised as you were by the news. Such a reaction made sense. No one around your age has moved here since Cove did 5 years ago. Were they with their family? Maybe they were cutting through. Nuh-uh. The new kid was all by himself, just walking. Did you talk to him? Nope. Came to report the sighting right away. Okay. The kid had green hair, glasses, and was pretty small, and seemed really upset about something. I hope he didn't leave. You blinked slowly, looked over to your longtime neighbor. That sounds a lot like you, Cove, when you first got here anyway. It does. It kind of does, doesn't it? That's weird. It sounded almost fond, a small smile playing on his lips. Derek snickered good-naturedly. I can see that really well now that you say so. But what did you say? Let's go find Cove's lookalike. We should all meet him. I'll do it. Sure, I want to see who this person is. Derek grinned, then he pointed down the street, the way he came. Last I saw him, the mystery visitor was going in this direction. Nothing else needed to be said. The three of you were off, with Derek leading the way. Derek brought you to the beach, and as a trio, you made your way down to the shore, to the old playground. You walked the familiar path in comfortable silence. When you were almost there, you spotted the kid in question. His bright colors almost shone like a beacon beneath the rays of the sun. He scuffed around, kicking up the sand as he paced. It was true, he certainly seemed upset, but you didn't think he was sad, like you had originally pictured. No, his erratic movements, scrunched up expression, he came off angry. You started to have doubts about this expedition. Maybe it'd be better if you left him alone, let him sort himself out. Derek didn't feel the same. He waved wildly, calling out to the boy. Hey, guy, over there. The kid whipped around, an impressive scowl carving deeper onto his face. His eyes were tired, but a strong hostile energy still radiated from him. What? What is it? What do you want? The sharp tone made Derek flinch, shifted on his feet. What's your name? Jeremy. Was that it? Okay. Jeremy? No, I'm Derek. That's Mandy and Cove. We were just walking around and we saw you. We wanted to say hi. The There aren't a lot of kids our age in the neighborhood. Yeah, so, it's cool to see someone else here. Strangely, Jeremy grew furious by your response. If steam could erupt from a person's ears, it would have happened then. They did bring me somewhere stupid, of course, I knew it. Huh? My parents. They're the ones who brought me. I didn't walk to this town. Can you not figure that out on your own? Right. My dad brings me to Sunset Bird too, when he has to come for work and all that stuff. It's not bad. That earned him a glare from Jeremy. Derek winced beneath it, glancing away. It was a struggle to remain friendly with this Jeremy guy. I mean, I wouldn't want to come here for a real vacation probably either. That's an understatement. This doesn't count as a vacation. It's a waste of time, a chore. My parents' family is nearby and we just had to come see them. Ugh. If they're your parents' family, doesn't that make them your family too? I guess. Ugh. What a chore. That's a pretty good reason to come by. Did you want to go somewhere else? No. Okay, Jeremy. Jeremy crossed his arms with a huff. He turned away. They should have gone by themselves, since they cared so much and left me home. But I'm not allowed to be by myself. Pfft. Makes no sense. They're the ones who don't know how to do anything. And I'm the kid? Brother? You are the kid. I hate to break it to you. You are the child. And yes, you have to go with your parents. Listen, I love this. Who peed in your cereal this morning? Jeremy's lip curled as his face contorted from anger to horror. Why would you think of something like that? That's disgusting. It's just an expression. Took a deep breath. You thought for one hopeful second that maybe he was calming himself down. He was not. So what? You're putting it in people's heads. I don't want to have to think about it. And someone brainless might decide it's a good idea and actually do it. There's some real stupids out in the world, you know. You're all living proof of that. Brother, we don't even know you. Right now, the only stupid I see is named Jeremy. Hey, we're not stupid. We'll just say stop it. You first. You turned to Cove, lowering your voice. The two of you aren't that similar after all. Jeremy must have had a good hearing though, because he caught the private exchange and scoffed. Of course we're not similar. My eyebrows aren't stupid. Okay. Okay, villain eyebrows. Yeah, I guess they're not the same. Cove's cheeks flushed crimson at the insult. He couldn't be sure if it was out of embarrassment or anger, maybe both. Come on. Listen. Should we go for it? Should we go for it? My actual reaction would probably be this, but listen. Somebody really did smack a bowl on that kid's head. Apologize to Cove right now. You can't treat people like that. Cove smiled weakly. Okay, I'm sorry. Listen. Bowl cut, shut up. I'm sorry your eyebrows are so terrible. I just rolled my eyes. His behavior was unbelievably childish. You bet this is what Elizabeth imagines when she's dealing with what she's dealing with whenever you do anything. But with Jeremy, he really is like a kid. Wow, what is wrong with you? Instead of taking offense, Jeremy only parroted Derek's words in a nasally voice. Wow. Okay, he can do it for himself. Wow, wow. This is dumb. Jeremy stuck out his tongue and skulked away, throwing more sand everywhere as he went. You watched him go hunched over until he became a speck in your vision. Silence reigned in his wake. The three of you tried to process what just happened. I can't believe it. What a mean kid. Derek wasn't kidding. By the sound of those earlier complaints, the new boy, Jeremy, was going to be in the area for at least a little while this summer. Derek sighed in dismay, plopping onto the ground. You followed. Cove did too shortly after. There wasn't much else to do. This sucks. I was hoping we could meet someone fun. Hang out, maybe. He shook his head. After a moment, he slowly turned to you with a hopeful expression. But, you know what would really improve the day? What? He didn't respond. Instead, he used his hand to point. Right at the fruit arrangement you were still holding. I like the idea that we're having this argument with this kid, and I'm just standing there holding a fruit arrangement. He could have had some, but instead he chose to be rude. You'd completely forgotten about it during the mini drama that unfolded. You had gotten used to the wait. Glancing over to Cove, you noticed he was eyeing the fruit. He must want some too. Why not? Let's eat. Derek perked up immediately at your words. He reached out for a skewer, hesitating slightly once he was inches away. Are you sure? You nodded. With an eager grin, he plucked out a prime row of fruits. Cove grabbed one for himself after him. Only you were without a skewer of your own. Pineapple. Pineapple's always good on those. There's a chance some of the other ones look kind of sketchy, but the pineapple is never bad. The pineapple was cut to look like a flower. It was the obvious first choice. Derek ate a pineapple skewer enthusiastically, finishing it within moments. This is amazing. It's not different than any other normal fruit. It's kind of worse. These have been out in the oven with their skins off for a while. Sheesh. Hey, you two remember the Land Before Time? Hell yeah, I do. Hell yeah. We're talking about tree stars. Listen, those look delightful. You're so right. I got so excited just now. I'm so sorry. The fruit thing makes me think of it. The dinosaurs all liked the leaves that were shaped like stars. Tree stars. Yeah. Chomping leaves looked so delicious when they did it. And there was that scene with the pretty trees. And all the dinosaurs came in, picked everything off of them till there was nothing. That's us right now. Awesome. I love that movie. Listen, this is the correct answer. I love that movie. Me too. Three of you continued like this for the next few minutes. Eventually, the display was barren. It looked weird devoid of fruit. Hey, we weren't supposed to eat all of it. Oops. Really? You couldn't stop yourself from sighing at the boys. You just wanted to eat some and have a nice time. Now you're probably gonna get in trouble. You could only accept it though. Hey, Mandy? Yeah? Two of you met eyes casually. That's pretty cool what you said back at that guy. Oh, thanks. I was just saying what I thought. Derek chimed in with high spirits. You totally owned him. I don't know what his parents say, but it's good at least somebody is around to tell him what's what. Yeah. Derek then leaned back on his arms. He contemplated the sky with a content sigh. So, are you both ready for summer break? How is someone supposed to be ready for a break? Absolutely. Yeah. Cool on you. Wish I could say the same. Feels like there's a lot to plan for. What about you, Cove? Are you ready? I think that depends. Or you could say anything else. The light atmosphere was shattered. Oh no. Oh. It's a different oh no. Hey, Mandy. You glanced over your shoulder to see your sister. She strode closer and closer, appearing none too pleased. Been looking all over for you. Ma said you and Cove ran off with the thing Mr. Holden brought for us. She leered over you with arms folded. So, where is it? Well, it's gone. What do you mean gone? You moved over to the side to face her completely. She zeroed in on the bouquet in your hands, which was now populated exclusively with skewers dripping in juice and tiny flecks of leftover fruit pieces. Her mouth dropped open. The tone of her voice rose. Seriously, Mandy, what were you thinking? It was supposed to be for all of us at home. She glanced over at Cove, sat beside you, and continued mockingly. Even if you did have an in with the delivery boy, that was up to Mr. Holden. Cove gave you a bent smile of support, which didn't help disprove her accusation. We could try a seagull. We'll just say sorry. Elizabeth narrowed her eyes, not at all placated. Oh, Oh no. Think I hear the mean kid coming back. We better get out of here. Elizabeth blinked, confused, and looked around. What kid? I don't see anyone. Derek didn't bother explaining. He just launched to his feet and ran off. Cove hopped up too, gladly taking the opportunity to exit the situation. He followed after Derek, but he sent a look to you from over his shoulder. He turned to watch Elizabeth. She stared back, brow raised. Listen, I would love to tell off that kid some more. You didn't make a break for it. Instead, you carefully got up from the sand, bouquet still in hand. Once you straightened up, Elizabeth smiled affectionately over at you. Come on, fugitive. You nodded, then gazed at the empty bouquet. How would you explain what happened? You know, you could tell them those boys ate it all. They bailed, so they don't get to tell the story. Moms would never need to find out. Are you serious? She bumped your shoulder, winking cheekily. What else is family for? You laughed together, making your way home side by side. When you and Elizabeth had returned earlier with the empty bouquet, Mom was bummed she didn't get any. Ma consoled her with a promise to make her a fruit flower of her own later. Elizabeth said nothing about how it came to be empty. The event was dropped without question. You think they were just happy you and your sister seemed to be in good moods. That was a while ago now. Later that night, you found yourself seated near the kitchen counter. Your fingers drummed on the surface as you waited, your gaze trained on the phone. You were waiting on a call tonight, specifically from your cousin Leandra. You didn't want to miss it accidentally. Your uncle, aunt, and Lee used to live many hours away. Your families only saw each other a few times a year for big occasions. A while back, though, they'd moved and were closer to you than ever before. You now hung out regularly. With school being out, you're positive she's going to want to come over a lot. The two of you were the same age and got along well. She used to be really fond of Elizabeth too, but now that your sister had become allergic to interacting with her own family, tended to be just you and Lee who spent time together. I mean, from what we've seen, she was your only friend who was a girl. You weren't all that close with other girls your age. But you had plenty of other friends. Ma always said that quality was more important than quantity when Elizabeth bemoaned your small social circle. You weren't sure how friendship quality was judged, but nevertheless you thought that what you had with Lee was good. Then the shrill ringtone announced an incoming call. You jumped before grabbing the receiver and pressing it to your ear. I would answer it politely. You were greeted by a distorted, high-pitched giggle. Why do you sound so weird? Mom answers the phone like that sometimes. It's supposed to be polite. You should go with hi. That was something a robot would say. There was static on the other end, as if Lee was shifting wherever she was. So, can you believe school's actually over? I thought it'd never be done. Now we don't have to do any of that boring stuff. We get to hang out whenever we want. Speaking of hanging out, Lee, can you wait a second? Let me just head to my room. You got up from your seat at the counter. Luckily, the phone was wireless, so you didn't have to worry about any cords tying you down. Did y'all ever have like a long... Listen, this is the age coming out. Like when wired phones were the thing, did y'all have that like super long wire so you could actually move? Or did you have like a normal length? Because I think we had to buy it, but we got like a extended length wire. So we didn't have to sit there like right by the phone in the kitchen. Your mom's had a rule about not moving the phone unless a call was in progress, which is why you'd been sat by its cradle waiting for Lee to call. You didn't like it, but it had to be that way. You weren't the only person here. If anyone could take the phone anywhere at any time, it'd be an even bigger hassle. You could easily imagine the receiver having a new forever home in Elizabeth's locked room. But now Lee had called, it was okay for you to go upstairs to your bedroom and talk to her. You made your way up the stairs smiling. After you had arrived, you shut the bedroom door firmly behind you, took a seat on your bed. All right, I'm here. Cool. Hey, did you know The girl down the street from me has her own phone now, a cell phone. She doesn't have to wait for someone else to stop using it or anything. Wow, really? The thought of someone having a phone that was all their own seemed unbelievable to you, right? I wish I had one too, but my parents said I couldn't get my own phone till I'm more grown up. I wish they'd change their mind. We could call each other every single day, and no one would be able to stop us. How great would that be? Listen, it was not unlimited time. You would not be able to call each other every single day. Really great. We can even stay up late talking about whatever we want. Leigh sighed. Okay, yeah, I didn't miss it. Leigh sighed thoughtfully into the receiver. At least they said I could have it someday. I can't wait. She sighed dramatically. I bet I'm not going to get one until I'm all the way in college. Squeezing the phone between your shoulder and your ear, you puffed up your pillows and made yourself more comfy. It was strange to think of a time when normal school would be over and you'd have to choose whether or not to go to a college. School was such a big part of your life right now. Every A+ you brought home was a result of concentration and diligence. You hoped that you would be able to keep it up through high school. I felt a lot of pressure. Your future depended on it. Yeah. Try to sound engaged, but your mind has decided to go back to school despite the season. Leigh knew you too well to be fooled. You sound so spacey. What's up? Just thinking about school. Leigh groaned. Are you thinking about how we don't have time? Are you thinking about how we don't have time to think about it? Because it's summer? That's what I'm doing. Let's make a petition for more vacation time. Absolutely correct. Yeah, everybody in class would sign it. Maybe some of the teachers too. Though I guess school isn't all the way bad. You can do some good things there. You can just do more when school's out. True. We can say that. If I didn't go to school, I'd never meet anybody new. No one really comes here. Uh-huh. And learning things can be cool. I just wish everyone did okay with how they taught the things, not just some people. Me too. It could never be me. That was all. That was pretty much everything that's good about school. Okay, point taken. Now I decree the topic of school is officially closed. We have to talk about the summer first before we start plotting the rest of our lives. I've got some plans already. Ooh, tell me. I'm gonna visit my cousins. You chuckled, of course. What's something you want to do? The first thing that comes to your head. Probably spend time at the beach. I could have guessed that one. You leaned back on your bed, settling in. You continued chatting with your friend. Even though it hadn't been long since you saw her, and you'd be seeing her soon, you found plenty to talk about. For one, the events of the day. You sat up straighter. I was with Cove and Derek today. We met a new kid. Like at your neighborhood? Mm-hmm. His parents are visiting family, so it sounds like he'll be around for a little while. I don't know how long. What was he like? An asshole? Mean? He kept snapping when all we were trying to do was talk to him. He just kept being rude to everyone. But especially Cove, it was awful. Is that gonna be like Shiloh? I was like, what if it's Shiloh? And he's like doing like being a creep and like he copied his hair but has a bowl cut and awful. He's like, I don't want to go back here. I don't want to see them. I don't think I want to meet him. You want a boy to stay away even before meeting him? That's an unexpected twist. Your cousin was pretty popular with the boys who knew her. She seemed happy enough to have them around until they started to annoy her. Who are you to talk? Cove and Derek are always around. They're both boys, you know. They're not always around. It's not the same. Leigh laughed at your rejection of the idea, deeply amused. Even though she couldn't see, you shook your head at her, grinning to yourself. There's a stomping noise approaching your room, heralding the arrival of your irritated older sister. She flung the door open, a frown etched on her face. The little adventure from earlier hadn't gotten you any goodwill this time, it seemed. How long are you going to be on the phone? Glancing at your watch, you realized that your quick call had gone on much longer than anticipated. Elizabeth held out her hand, the other one lodged on her hip. She noticed the realization on your face. Time's up. With a sigh, you said your goodbyes to Leigh. Leigh, I have to go now. Bye. Okay, see you soon. Tell Elizabeth and your moms I said hi too. You'd barely pressed the call end button when Elizabeth whisked the handset from your fingers, began dialing someone new as she strode out of the room. Your mom's voice called from downstairs. Hey, anyone seen the phone? I'm using it. With that, she shut your door behind you. Silence was left in the wake. That was one way to end your first day of summer break. Sometime later, it had gotten dark outside, and you laid in bed wide awake. Your window rattled all of a sudden, startling you badly. You flinched, staring over at it with furrowed brows. From your vantage point, you saw only the moon and an open sky. You were confused, curious. What had caused that noise? Cocking your head, you sat up and moved closer to the window. You wanted to get to the bottom of this. To your utter shock, your gaze was met by a pair of familiar ocean blue eyes. Cove? You squinted. Yep. Cove was right outside your window. Your house was very angular, and some parts stuck out further than others. So it theoretically wouldn't be hard to climb around on. Still, just because somebody could didn't mean you expected it to ever happen. To his credit, Cove was doing fine. His feet were braced against the section of the wall that jutted out, his arms flexing with the effort to keep him upright. He easily lifted a hand and waved at you from the other side of the glass. You hurriedly opened the window. Cove climbed over the edge, releasing her breath when he was safely inside. Hey, Mandy. You're lucky I didn't start screaming. I needed to talk to you and couldn't wait until tomorrow. Sorry. If I rang the doorbell, I knew your moms would have answered, and they'd just make me go home. Didn't really want to explain why I was coming over anyway. I don't want to talk about it. Well, besides with you, I mean. But that's why I did that. And as unexpected as this was, you were touched. Cove felt like he could tell you what was wrong. I might have tried calling or something, except my dad was on the phone. Cove suddenly looked very cross. Dad, he was talking to my mom. Still is, probably. You raised your eyebrows. Cove had eavesdropped on his parents' phone conversation? I mean, I probably wouldn't say anything. There were other things to talk about. Are you going to stay with your mom for a while again? Every year, Cove was sent off to live with his mom for a few weeks. When it happened varied. Sometimes he would go during winter break, but usually he went during summer. Even though it was hard news when you found out he was leaving, and you missed seeing him those weeks, you understood. To your surprise, however, he shook his head. That's what I thought too, but no. That's not what they were saying. My dad asked my mom not to have me leave this year. He said she could come stay with us here. You waited for him to continue. He didn't. The conversation abruptly dropped off. You couldn't help but stare at Cove. There was a complicated mix of expressions on his face. What did your mom say? She told him she'd come. I know she's coming soon, before school starts. Oh. You had heard Cove talk about his mom a lot over the years. Tell you about past memories or what happened while he was visiting her. Still, it was one thing to hear about someone, another to actually meet them. Very soon, you're going to see Cove's mom in person. You were taken aback by the news, so you could only imagine how Cove it felt. You looked over at him. He was pacing across your room, his features pained with dread. Before, they'd barely stayed in the same room long enough to have lunch. Now we're gonna all be together again? The three of us, after all this time, just for a few weeks? I know I should probably be happy they can talk to each other now. I'm still not. I'm just confused and freaked out. Now I feel really bad for feeling this way. Mandy, it's so... His fists tighten and his eyes become misty. I shouldn't keep getting like this. It's been a long time already, and I'm not a little kid. Though he wouldn't meet your eyes, you knew he was waiting for you to say something. We can say this. I'm sorry, Cove. You know I'm here for you. The tense line of Cove's shoulders eased. Thanks, that makes me feel a little better. Like I'm not freaking out for no reason. Momentary silence fell over the two of you. You marveled at how the day started. You'd woken up eager for summer vacation. But now things seem so crazy. The mini debacle with Mr. Holden's gift, the newest addition to the neighborhood being so rude, and as if all that wasn't enough, now Cove's mom would be living with Cove and his dad again. Your whole life was kind of like that, it seemed. Complicated and hard and different. Why couldn't things just get better with time? Mandy? Sound of your name, said quietly, pulled you from your thoughts. Cove gazed at you, concerned. I don't know. I get it. At least I think I do. Cove grinned reassuringly. It was small and delicate, but you knew it was genuine. He had come here, conflicted and upset, only to end up worrying about you. He was really a great friend. You know, I think I don't want to talk anymore about this. He looked away, his lips thinning into a line, and rubbed his arms. But I kind of don't want to go back home either. Could I stay a little longer? Just doing something else? He appeared equal parts hopeful and vulnerable. How could you possibly turn him away? What kind of flashlight and some cards are you in? You tilted your head, waiting patiently for his answer. Cove perked up at your response, a smile appearing on his face. He immediately took a seat on your bed, not afraid to get comfortable in your room. You felt a little better at the sight somehow. You still had a lot of worries, but you were glad he was here. And not just tonight. You were glad he came into your life in the first place. That was a change you never wanted to undo. It felt totally natural to let him sit in your little world. That initial friendship had deepened so much over these past years. You were certain there was room to get even closer. You joined Cove on your bed, taking a seat across from him. He smiled at you again, but you could tell this time it was half-hearted. He was still easy to read. Though he didn't want to talk about his mom and dad, he must be thinking about what happened and what's about to happen. You nudged him with your foot. You reached over and nudged him with the arch of your foot. You had no idea how to make him feel better, but you were trying. Cove blinked confused before he swatted your foot away, but his expression softened into something more natural. Conversation was stilted and broken, often by silence at first. Then both of you were able to get into your usual candor. As your secret hangout session stretched on, you thought that you truly wanted to keep having moments like this with him. You hoped a day would never come when life decided that the two of you would have to part ways, and you knew Cove felt the same. You opened your tired eyes, groaning as they adjusted to the bright light that was streaming through your window, warming your peachy skin. With a loud yawn, you rolled away from the sunlight and blinked a couple of times, clearing the sleep from your eyes before realizing with a start that it was actually morning. You couldn't remember even falling asleep. Cove had crept through your window during the night, and the two of you spent time together, trying not to wake your parents. You must have fallen asleep while you were hanging out, but couldn't put a finger on exactly when. You wonder how late Cove had stayed before heading home. You rubbed your face and yawned again, contemplating whether you should get out of bed, get ready for the day, or just stay snuggled up for a little while longer. Until your gaze landed on an instantly recognizable mop of pale green hair, and you bolted upright, gasped in surprise. He never left. He was still there. In the morning. He had fallen asleep while sitting on the ground and precariously leaning his head on the side of your mattress. With your shout, Cove's eyes snapped open, and his head slipped from its source of support. He didn't stop going down until he smacked right into the floor with a crack. You clamped a hand over your mouth, looked down at him with wide eyes, curled up where he had landed rather ungracefully. Ah. You okay? You winced at his tumble, hoping no one else in the house had heard either of your outbursts. Yeah, I'm alright. Cove rubbed his forehead a little, and you weren't sure that was entirely true. If either of your moms found out Cove had slept there last night, two of you would be in big trouble. Cove blinked at you a couple of times, his eyes growing in panic as some thought that only he could hear settled in his mind. Oh my god, I fell asleep. You weren't exactly sure what to do as you watched Cove pace your room, looking around frantically. Cove's hand flew to his face, letting out a sigh of relief when he found his glasses right there where they were supposed to be. Despite that, he hadn't calmed down completely. The atmosphere was still frazzled. It's gonna be alright. You just need to leave before anyone notices you're here. If they knew, we would have heard about it already. Cove nodded, his shoulders tensed, as he fixed you with a firm stare with his turquoise eyes. Letting out a heavy sigh, he ran a hand through his hair. In exasperation, he couldn't look at you again as he spoke. I'll see you later. You were confused by all of this had played out, but hoped that was true. Right, bye, Cove. At that, he glanced at you once more. The expression was placid. In all the panic, he was stopped ever so briefly by a moment of clarity. Thanks, again. You're a good friend, Mandy. He firmly whispers the words so there would be no room to doubt that he meant it. But he turned away from you before you had a chance to respond or even fully react. In a matter of seconds, he had climbed over your bed and opened the window. A cool breeze rolled off the ocean, fluttering through Cove's hair, filling your room with its salty scent. Cove fearlessly stepped out onto the ledge. You wished him luck. Good luck, be super careful. You weren't sure if he heard you or not, but he kept going along, one foot in front of the other with increasing speed, till his form disappeared out of sight. You stuck your head out the window as far as it could go, trying to keep watch. He walked the full length of the ledge before jumping down to the top of the garage, then lowering himself onto the fence. From there, he finally dropped down to the ground. He threw out a thumbs up at his successful climb. He ran off towards his house without stopping, disappearing behind the side of another building. You had to admit that you were pretty impressed at how doable he made that look. With a little sigh, you reclosed your window, deciding if there was nothing more you could do. You hopped off your bed and got ready to head downstairs for the day. Made your bed. It was a habit of yours. You straightened up your sheets and smoothed over the comforter and fluffed your pillows before stepping back and admiring your work. You took the stairs, slowly attempting to mask your face into a look of innocence. You were sure someone would have come into your room if they had heard anything strange, but you couldn't be too careful. You had to play it cool. When you stepped into the living room, Elizabeth was there, tapping her finger on the counter. Good morning, Elizabeth. She looked over at you immediately, her eyes squinting at the grating. Why are you being so weird? You hadn't even done anything. Your big sister never missed a beat, unfortunately. You turned and offered her a tight smile, and her lips pursed together even tighter. Mandy? Shrugged it off. I'm not. You spoke so nonchalantly you almost thought she believed you. But you knew better. Further suspicious squinting occurred as she waited for something. But ultimately she rolled her eyes, and you weren't sure if you were in trouble or not. She didn't seem to care enough to dig any further. Whatever. And then she walked straight out the front door, letting it slam shut behind her. You let out a brief sigh. Elizabeth went out most days to hang out with her friends from school around town. Today you were extra glad for it, though you were also grateful she hadn't left the house any sooner and risked running into Cove. Looked like you were getting away with that. Breakfast was eaten in peace and alone. Your moms were both out by the time you had gotten up. They had left you a serving of food from breakfast they made. Hash browns, an omelet, fruit salad. There were a few sausage links. It took a little bit of everything. It was tasty. You appreciated that there was a variety in the meals that your mom's made. The day lazily drifted by at home, and eventually your parents returned. You pulled open the fridge again, lingering in the frosty air for a moment or two before grabbing a bottle of ice-cold water, taking a long drink. It was perfect. It was a perfect balmy summer afternoon. You had decided to head outdoors to find something to do. You hadn't decided what that something was just yet, but you were sure something would pop up to occupy your time. As you were heading out the front door, you paused for a moment. You hadn't seen Cove since he left that morning, and you couldn't help but think about what had happened to him. Would it be bad to go over to his house right now? Or to call him to check in? You stepped out of your house, still stuck in an internal debate with yourself when a voice caught your attention. "Hi, Mandy." Confused, you looked over to where an unrecognizable woman was waving at you, a friendly smile plastered on her face. You racked your memory for where you might have seen her before, but nothing came to mind. Not your school, from the country club your mom's took you to. You had absolutely no idea who this woman was. The woman crossed the road towards you, and you were a little unsure whether you should stay put, go back to the house, and lock the door. "Oops, I'm sorry. Was that presumptuous? I've heard about you, but you have no idea who I am, do you?" You shook your head. She removed her sunglasses to reveal sparkly ocean blue eyes. All of a sudden, she seemed a little more familiar. "My son lives here, and my ex, too." The bent smile, she lifted a hand to point at the condo across the street from your own house. She was Cove's mom. You didn't know why you hadn't realized sooner, now that you'd gotten a good look at her. Made sense. She was super pretty. This beautiful lady was Cove's mother, wow. No matter your thoughts on her, you still felt taken aback that she had appeared here so suddenly. Cove mentioned she was coming, but you hadn't gotten the impression it would be the very next day. She extended a hand again, this time for you to take. You studied the manicured fingers in front of your face, the assortment of bracelets that dangled from her wrist. "I'm Kira Priest. You can call me Kira." We shook hands. You reached out and took her hand, and she shook yours firmly, grinning. "I'm Mandy, but you already know that." "That I do. Cove's mentioned you to me before. It's nice to officially meet you, Mandy." Cove talked about you to his mom? He hadn't mentioned how he said things about you to her. We'll just say nice to meet you. We won't be that nosy." She smiled at you fondly, her eyes crinkling at the corners. The sound of the door opening and closing caught both of your attentions, and when you turned towards the sound, it was to find Cove exiting his house, his eyes skimming the ground. Considering just how tall he had grown, you kind of figured his mom also would have been tall. But she was much more on the short side. For an adult anyway, Cove's height must have come from his father. "There you are. I thought you were going to keep me standing out here all day." You tried to catch Cove's eye as he walked towards you, but his gaze was firmly fixed on the sidewalk. When he finally crossed the road and looked up, he gave you a pitiful look. After the way he had acted last night, you knew he must be feeling pretty mixed up about this. You tried to wordlessly express that you understood. "Cove and I are heading into town to grab something to eat while the snore is at work." Damn. Kira beamed at Cove and ruffled his hair, which only seemed to upset him more. You assumed the snore she was talking about was Mr. Holden. "Hey, you should come with us, Mandy. I'd love to get to know you better." "Yeah, you should come." There was a pleading in his tone that you couldn't miss. "Of course we'll run it by your parents first, responsibility and all that. It'll give me an excuse to meet them, which I need to do at some point. It's important to be neighborly if I'm going to be roosting on the street for the time being. Any whoosies, let's go." Kira walked ahead towards your house, and you hung back with Cove, who crinkled his nose as he watched her. "I'm sorry about her, but I really do want you to come. I don't want it to be just the two of us, not right now." You leaned in closer and whispered, while checking around for anyone who might hear. "What happened? Did your dad know you were gone?" Cove shook his head and sighed heavily. Dad was so focused on Mom showing up that he didn't even notice. "I thought when I heard them on the phone last night that it was something they were planning for the future. This morning Dad said it was supposed to be a surprise, and I guess I was surprised. She's going to be here all summer." "Oh. You were surprised to hear that too." Cove sighed again, even heavier. I'll go with you if you really want me to. He smiled, his shoulders relaxing a little in relief. Thanks, that'd be cool. As the two of you headed over to where Cove's mom had just knocked on your front door and stood behind her. Mom answered the door after a minute, her eyebrows lifting in surprise at the group she found found in front of her. You realize that, like you, she would have no idea that it was Cove's mom who was hanging with you. However, after blinking at the woman a couple of times, looking between her and Cove, the realization seemed to strike on her. Hello there, I'm Pamela. I see you've met my kid. Oh, I see you've met my kid, Mandy, and I'm guessing you've already known Cove for a while. Kira laughed, and you and Cove exchanged looks at your parents' weird sense of humor. I'm Kira Priest, Cove's mom. It's nice to meet you. A head of purple-brown hair caught your eye as Ma popped up behind Mom, squeezing herself in beside her. We have company. I was wondering what all the commotion was. She grinned excitedly at Kira. Two of them introduced themselves and shook hands. Hi, Mandy, Cove. Cove smiled at Ma shyly, and she gestured a hand towards the living room. There's no use hanging around in the doorway. Why don't you come in? I'd love to, but I promised to take my son out to eat. I wouldn't want to hold you up with a surprise visit. Oh, I understand. You're welcome to stop by any time. I'll take you up on the offer when I can. Count on it. Would you mind too much if Mandy went with Cove and I? My treat. We won't be driving, just a quick walk down the road. Sure, that sounds nice. I hope you all have fun. You gave your moms a look. They smiled at you fondly. You were happy they were letting you go. You could tell that Cove really needed the support. You were ready to be there for him. Marvelous. Expect us back in an hour or two. We look forward to seeing you again. Take care. Your parents waved goodbye to the three of you as you backed up onto the street. There was the sound of the front door closing behind you. I'm pretty positive I saw some restaurants when I was in the taxi, not too far from here. Yeah, it's a tourist town, isn't it? There's lots of them around. It's kind of strange to see Cove give someone this much attitude. If he wasn't in the mood to be nice, he generally just kept to himself. Kira put her hands on her hips and smiled at her son. Well, you sound like the area expert. Do you have any recommendations for a place nearby? Not really. Kira pouted at him a little and then turned to you instead. How about you, Mandy? Want to point me in the right direction? We'll be polite. We'll shoulder that burden. Sure, I have a couple of favorites. You've been a lot of places in town, though. There were a couple that stood out from all the rest. There's a Chinese restaurant that me and my family go to all the time. It's my mom's favorite. There's also a tropical themed place that tries to be sort of fancy. Both sound like a treat. I'll leave it to you to pick for us, since Cove is going through a phase over there. Damn. Don't be rude. He huffed at her and turned his face away. Listen, we're gonna get Chinese. Thank you, Mandy. Will you show us the way? You nodded, taking the lead of your little group as Cove and his mom followed behind you. Together, the three of you left the neighborhood behind. The walk was about 15 minutes, and along the way, Kira asked a lot of questions about the area. Cove was quiet most of the time, so you ended up answering her instead. Kira explained that she lived in a large city, and she loved how peaceful and relaxing everything seemed in Sunset Bird. The restaurant was busy as usual, but luckily you were shown right to a small table. Kira lowered herself into the chair while Cove picked the one diagonal to her. Not facing her or to the side, it was awkward. Let's see. To start, what would you all like to drink? We'll get an orange soda. Mandy? What flavor? So we're gonna get a... Sure. Kira placed the order for your drinks, getting black hot coffee for herself. It didn't take long before they were brought to the table and set in front of you. You took a long sip of your drink as you looked around the restaurant. Your small group checked over the menus. You decided to order a usual thing. You had been to this restaurant many times, so you knew what was good and what wasn't already. Kira and Cove didn't need any encouragement for this. They were totally focused on the information in front of them. Soon the meals, too, were ordered, the menus taken away. You glanced at the table surface, waiting to figure out what to say. Cove sunk back further into his seat and avoided eye contact. He started to twiddle his thumbs while acting like all of this was perfectly normal. His sour feelings today were unignorable. Instead of asking more open questions he'd brush off, Kira had mercy on her son and instead put her focus towards you. So, Mandy, what's a few things you're into? There's got to be something you do for fun, especially now that you're not buried in school assignments. Aww. Just him. That's my focus. Realistically. I don't know much about them, but you can show me sometime. And music. When I was that age, I played the guitar. Getting really good at it. I listened to a lot of it. I had an MP3 player at home that my mom helped me put some music on. And I've seen some concerts. Awesome. And I go to the beach. That's fine. Just a few. Thanks, I'm happy to learn more about you. There's so much I hadn't heard. Cove leaves the details out. So what exactly did Cove say about me? Kira laughed, holding a hand in front of her mouth. Can't tell you that. I didn't come all this way to embarrass my son. Too much. Kids are delicate at this age. She laughed again and glanced at Cove to see his reaction. He was trying not to pay attention, but you could tell he was uncomfortable. Hoping it would clear some of the tension in the air, you decided to ask Kira a few questions of your own. Cove hadn't told you much about her. You were curious to know more about this woman who was such a big part of his life. What exactly do you do for work? I'm a travel writer for magazines and things. I keep people in the loop on what's worth seeing. It's good work. Wow. Let's just get right to the point. Why did you and his dad get divorced? Let's get into the heavy subjects. Where do you live normally? Nevada? Have you ever been there? You shook your head. It's a beautiful place. Check it out if you can. What do you like to do? Spend time with my little boy, of course, and traveling. A real shock, huh? Let's leave it there. I feel like that's good. Didn't seem to bother her that the conversation dropped off. Cove sipped his soda angrily, slurping up the remaining drink with furrowed brows. He looked ready to run straight out of the restaurant. You weren't sure if coming along had ended up making the lunch better or worse. We're gonna I'm gonna save. I'm scared. The wrapper hit Cove on the nose, and you had to bite down on your lip to keep from laughing. Took a couple of moments, but finally he cracked a smile, and that made you feel a little lighter inside. You two seem really cute together. Cove covered his face with his hand and leaned back in his seat. Ugh, Mom, why would you say that? You blushed. The way she said that had embarrassed you. You weren't prepared to have Cove's own mother describe the normal interactions the two of you had as cute. Your meals were delivered shortly after that. Everything was so delicious, even Cove enjoyed his food. Alright, now that we're all full and content, can you explain, please, why you've had a bug up your butt all day? Cove's face scrunched at that. Seriously, baby, what did Mom do to make you this mad? I haven't even been around a full day yet. Gripped the edge of the table, refusing to make eye contact. The words he spoke were barely audible over the din of the restaurant. You could have told me. She leaned forward to not miss anything else, eyebrows raised. Told you what? Finally seemed to find his voice and spoke the thoughts that had been on his mind. That I wasn't going to visit you this year. That you're going to be coming instead. Didn't you invite me? You wanted me here with you. Cove's eyes began to shake. His frustration ebbed. I do want to be around. I do want you to be around, but I didn't know it'd be like this. It's not the same, and nobody said anything. I see. Her expression grew tense. She threaded her fingers together and placed her hands in front of her on the table. We've both been gifted another Clifford surprise. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Referring to that as a Clifford surprise almost caused you both you and Cove to crack a smile. You also had no idea his name wasn't just Cliff. Over 5 years, nobody had ever called him Clifford until now. He's a big red dog. She smoothed her hair out, not letting go of her stern look. The more things change, the more they stay the same. They let out identical sighs but smiled weakly at one another afterwards. I can go home, Cove. We can still set up a normal trip to my place before the summer ends. Cove's lips tightly closed together. He seriously pondered the option. I think I do want you to stay. I miss it when you're not there. My heart. She reached across the gap, grabbed his face, and planted a kiss on his cheek. Cove tried to wiggle away. Mom, stop. I'm sorry. Sweet young men need to be smooched by their parents. If I don't, they'll take away my mom license. Kira was completely enthused by Cove's admission, though a tone of seriousness did return to her voice when the conversation continued. Do you want to talk to your dad, too? No. Cove had snapped the word instantly, but reeled his annoyance back in just as quickly. Maybe later, not today. I understand, we can shelve it. Thanks, Mom. Thank you for talking to me, little mister. She grinned affectionately at him before turning your way. And thank you, Mandy. Huh? What'd I do? It's easy to act like a baby with your mom. It's harder to keep that up with your neighbor watching everything. Especially when you really care about what said neighbor thinks of you. She winked. Mom! She just ruffled his hair with a laugh, then moved her hand down to tap the end of his nose. And that was how the issue was resolved, at least between Cove and his mom. When the three of you left the restaurant, Kira had paid the bill. You walked back to your neighborhood slowly. You had eaten up so much by the time you were beginning to feel sleepy. Okay. It didn't help that the lunch had happened late. The sun was already beginning to descend from the sky. But eventually, you reached your street. Someone was there to greet your group upon arrival. Welcome back, family, and Mandy, too. Cliff. Dad. Damn. Both snotty the same. Two walked past him into the condo without sparing another word. Despite the summer heat, their shoulders were cold. Uh-oh, I'm in trouble. He rubbed the back of his neck with a crooked smile, but his eyes were soft as he looked on after them. He's so much like his mom, don't you think? You gave a vague nod, not sure what he was expecting you to do. He nodded back far more energetically. Okay, have a nice night, Mandy. You too, Mr. Holden. He won't. He will not. With that, Cove's dad disappeared to join the others inside. It's your turn to go home now. Summer hadn't started off at all how you imagined it would have, though it turned out to set the tone well. Having Kira in the neighborhood was a new experience not only you and Cove, but also your families, and a dull moment was rarely had. Alright. We will stop there with this one. We'll start getting into the moments in our next episode. So, I hope you enjoyed. I had fun. I hope you did as well. And I will see you in the next one. Bye, gang. Love y'all.